Now, I don't normally release two videos back to back on the same topic that often. However, I feel like after yesterday's video, I do need to kind of go into a little bit more detail into some of the larger issues that we have in the game regarding Hydra Clash. Now, as people quite rightly pointed out yesterday, simply nerfing Cadaver doesn't really solve all of the issues around Hydra Clash. Now, I initially wanted to just focus on Cadaver because I felt like it was such a very straightforward, simple solution in the short term that it would just resolve a lot of initial issues. But I always planned on doing this video today that I'm recording that actually goes into a little bit more detail as to what I would do if I was approaching Hydra Clash. The fundamental complaint that I get from a lot of people that I've been talking to isn't actually about the damage component, rather the time component that Hydra Clash has introduced into the game. We all used to kind of get a little bit frustrated in terms of how long it takes to play the game. Specifically Hydra Clash, the re-rolling, the RNG, you could commit yourself a couple of hours just to basically get this done. Now, I know from the start Hydra was designed to be a manual sort of short-term weekly fight, and I still think this principle is appropriate and correct. The problem is with Hydra Clash is it forces that manual principle into an extremely long period of time, which is not correct. So what I want to do in this video is kind of answer the questions that other people have raised in terms of, it's more than just a Cadaver issue, by saying what I would have done if I was designing Hydra Clash. What I would do with Hydra as a solution in order to kind of balance the issue of time, rewards, incentives, and the goal of Hydra Clash. Now, I'd grab a coffee. This is probably going to be a longer than normal video because we are going to be diving into mechanics. We're going to be diving into new ways that I would structure it. And of course, what I will say at the start is I'm sure none of this will ever get implemented, but it's fun to put it out there, to raise the question, to start the conversation, because if enough of the community get together and agree a kind of a principle of what they would like, then sometimes Playroom will listen and implement it. So just a kind of a bit of a summary of the main issues we have with Hydra at the moment. We know that there is a 4-tier difficulty. You need to get to the top chest here. So before Hydra Clash, you would need to get 36.6 million, which for a lot of endgame clans was quite achievable for many players. They didn't even need like the big sort of max HP nukers to get here. You could do it with a Husk or Royal Guard, although getting over 36 million then and going to those high numbers would be quite challenging. But normally a lot of people could put at least a Nightmare team together. But that didn't resolve the issues that I think appear in Hydra, in the sense that it's too slow, there's not enough champion diversity, and there is too much of a forced roster where you have to have specific champions in specific roles, and it kind of dilutes the sort of fantasy and the fun that you have in terms of building unique, weird ways with champions. That's part of the fun. Trying to find a champion that you wouldn't think about using that works really, really well. You get a lot of enjoyment in the game from that. This doesn't really enamor itself to that problem. We do have various difficulties. It was great when we had Mithrala, and then of course we've got the rewards that come out of here. I actually think these rewards are quite good now that they've added soul stones. Initially when they came out, I think people were a little bit like, it's a bit average, but I think actually, considering this is the only place you can get protection and stone skin, it's a pretty good reward as you get double the chests. Obviously, once you lose Mithrala, it kind of goes down in value. Now, the problem with Hydra Clash is it incentivizes, firstly, extreme amounts of personal damage. 650 million is a lot. We are talking 100 million on Nightmare. So you have to do near triple the amount of points than you need to be able to get even close to this 650 million because of the multiplier. So I really feel like this kind of personal clash is over incentivized. The other issue, which is quite rightly pointed out by people in the video yesterday, if you come 4th and 5th, you get nothing for your effort. You get no rewards whatsoever. You don't even get like smaller chests. You get absolutely nothing. And that is a real failure of this mode, because essentially you're trying to incentivize people to win. The incentive should be better rewards, not no rewards. And that is the problem. You're incentivizing some rewards, but actually you're punishing people if they don't even come top 3, which is really, really poor in my opinion. It also is exclusively on damage. And it also highlights an issue of lower people down here. For example, if we take King Buzo, there is a potential that his clan will get really frustrated because he's only been able to do 19 million on normal. I'm not saying that this clan is doing this, I'm using it as an example. If a competitive clan wanted to compete, they would be looking at their lower members and going, you're not doing enough, you need to pull your leg out, which makes King Buzo, that person, feel a bit like, I'm doing my best here and I'm being punished. And it also puts pressure on the clan leadership to kind of structure it, because the people at the top here might be going, well, I'm putting all my effort in and I'm not getting the rewards. So it's kind of, you've created like a negative potential environment within, you know, this world, and I think that's a bit of a problem. Those are the main issues. It's too much time for not a lot of rewards, and when you do try to get the rewards, you're basically potentially not going to get anything. So there's lack of motivation then, and also I think overall there should be improvements made to the way that Hydra work. Let's get into what I would do if I was a game developer. If I was developing this game mode, what I would do to hit some of these objectives. Let's talk about the goals first of when we were introducing Hydra Clash and what the purpose of that would be. If I was a game developer and I wanted to implement a new competitive clan-based content onto Hydra, I'd be looking at these 4 pointers as goals for that system, right? Whenever you design anything new in a game, you need to start with what is the purpose of this new thing that we're developing. Is it to improve the overall gameplay, which means that we're going to have a higher user retention, which means we will lead to more revenue? Is it to fix some issues with a game mode that basically led to a lack of gameplay, which means that we've invested a lot of effort, but we actually need to fix it to make it worthwhile? You know, players have maybe invested their own time and effort into it and then are coming back to us and saying they're frustrated because they're not getting the same out of it. In this instance, the actual goals of Hydra Clash for me cover 4 main points. Firstly is to increase the engagement from the player base in Hydra. We've made the Hydra boss, we've put in extra rewards, we've put in soul stones. The analytics are showing we're not getting enough players playing Hydra. Okay, so Hydra Clash is to improve the value of Hydra, to make it worth more. That's step 1. Step 2 is to increase the clan activity with Hydra, to add a model where clans have to work together to achieve an outcome that benefits each other, right? That is a core principle to social gaming. Working together, either in a raid or as a group or as a fellowship or as a community, to achieve an outcome that everyone benefits from, and you work together. That's how you build communities, and that's how you build very deep connections within gaming. So that's what the game needs more of. So that's what I would say the Hydra Clash goal is for. Thirdly, it's to provide a meaningful location to place the new stone skin and perception accessories. They needed content that basically justified those additions. This makes sense to add it in Hydra Clash. And fourthly, to reward competitive Hydra teams. Now, what I mean by this is to throw a reward or a recognition to people who really enjoy Hydra and build really, really competitive, to ask them to push it, min-max it. So it's basically giving them a bit of a show-off moment. So they're rewarding people who want to build highly competitive Hydra teams. Those are the 4 main objectives. And so far, Hydra Clash has failed on every single one of them, because they've actually reduced the engagement in Hydra because people don't want to do it unless they really have to. They've reduced clan activity and engagement because people are deciding they want to opt out of Hydra, or they're finding it very difficult to join the Hydra Clash because, you know, the eligibility is an issue. Moving in clan clusters is a problem that I talked about yesterday. So it's actually reduced the amount of clan engagement and activity that you can have in it, because essentially it's difficult to engage with. They've sort of provided a meaningful reward for accessories. They've kind of probably failed on that part, but the actual method of acquisition is tied to such extreme numbers that for the majority of people, they haven't actually provided a meaningful way for them to earn those rewards. So in that essence, they failed on that point. And they also haven't rewarded any competitive teams because of the cadaver issue and champion balance. So essentially, one team is really competitive. I've also seen crazy Trunder teams. I didn't really call that out on yesterday's video because I didn't really want to say nerf every single champion in the game. But I certainly agree with a lot of the community sentiment that if you nerf Cadaver, then what's the next OP team? So you can't just keep nerfing champions until you get down to there. What I was saying with Cadaver specifically, he's so extremely powerful that even really strong teams like Trunder teams are struggling to compete with him. So that's why I was saying, you know, knock off the edge cases first. The people commenting are absolutely correct. You can't simply just ban champions because there's going to be a next OP pick there in that sense. So those are the 4 goals. They failed in every single one. So how do we fix this? How would we develop Hydra and Hydra Clash to still achieve these goals but resolve the issues? Well, the first thing we have to do is rebalance Hydra as a game mode. Not Clash, Hydra itself. And it is a big fundamental problem here. So you can see I've got some bullet points that I've listed that we need to resolve. Firstly, we need to reduce the RNG in Hydra. It's still too much. You still have the situation where everything goes wrong and you have to start again after 30 minutes and it's a wasted key. It's great that we got a free a free rerun. That's fine. That's cool. It's good that we don't get locked into the RNG, but it's still time. It wastes our time. So what we need to do is reduce the opportunities that a 40-minute run could get completely wasted, because that is what's driving motivation away from Hydra. We need to add more variance to Hydra. Pretty much you're locked into, on high-end teams, because of the way that the head respawn mechanic works, a team that covers all 6 heads, which means that pretty much you run the same team on every single rotation. Now, some people might enjoy the fact they only have to build one team. I think it devalues the point of it. I think there should be more adaptation and variation, just like Doom Tower, where you have to build different teams for different bosses. I felt like Hydra should have more variation, but it shouldn't lead to more RNG. It should lead to more diverse decision making that you can choose what you want to do. The third bullet point basically is talking about adding more champion decisions that you can make within your team. Right now, you're pretty much locked into a very strict team. There's not much flexibility. You're looking for those really strong champions because of the amount of things that you need to satisfy to make the team viable. You need block buffs. You need probably decrease attack. You probably need a mischief tank. You need a provoker. You need some form of healing. Then you need some form of damage, and you just run out of champion slots. So I think the options to reduce some of these requirements and make it a little bit more viable to bring lots of different champions will add a lot of flair and sort of depth to building teams for Hydra, which will encourage people to engage with it a little bit more. If they feel like a lot more of their champions are viable in Hydra and they're not locked into, I can only make this one particular team work, then they're going to be more engaged with Hydra. They're going to be more motivated to do it. We should resolve some really badly coded elements of Hydra. We'll talk about those in a minute. And also we need to add more champion diversity. We need to add more champions that fill more roles. Let's get to some exotic changes, I'm going to call it. Things that I would rather change. And I've thought this ever since Hydra came out, and I'm still a very strong supporter of this model. I would remove the concept that you can get 6 different heads in a rotation. It should be 4 heads. Every time you kill the head, it respawns the same head. Get rid of the RNG that you get different heads based on different setups. It is so frustrating when you build a Shamael lead team and you never get the Torment head, or you think, well, it's no Torment head to the start, and all the time you keep getting Torment head. What ends up happening is you don't actually care about which 2 heads aren't in rotation. You just build a team to cover all 6 heads because you have to. Because if the Torment head comes up, you're probably going to lose. So that is a big problem. If you just eliminate that so players know what they're getting when they're going into fight, they can make much more efficient and reliable teams. That instantly reduces a lot of the RNG. Now, obviously, it could lead to oversimplification, which is why I'm suggesting that you change the rotations more frequently on a fortnightly basis rather than a monthly basis. And I would add 12 more rotations to take it up to 18 different rotations. Now, you might be wondering, how are you going to make enough diversity on 18 rotations? That's a crazy amount of rotations. Well, I would add 2 new heads. And I've designed 2 new heads here that I would create to add more depth and challenge. And what I would essentially do is make lots of different variations of affinity and head combinations. Sometimes you could even have 2 of the same head. There's no harm in having 2 of the same heads if you wanted to do that to make it a little bit more challenging with different stats and different roles. That's how I would change it. I would make more of those rotations with lots of different variations of the heads in different affinities, so that when you're fighting the rotation, you need to think, okay, is my team, do I need to adapt it? Do I need to change it? Do I need to draft in one of my substitute champions because they're a better affinity? It gives you more options, but you're not facing the problem of, okay, Torment is not in the starting 4 heads, but it is in the last 2 heads, so I might get Torment, so I might need to draft a Shamael, which, when there isn't a Torment, he's a good damage dealer, but he loses a hell of a lot of his value. There are better options in that role if you take the Torment out. With a 4-head solution, you can look at it and go, there's no Torment head. I don't need a Duchess Veil. I don't need a Shamael team. I don't need a Cleanser, because I won't ever have to deal with fears. I might have a different challenge based on the heads that are there, but then I can build exclusively for that challenge. Then what I would do is I would go through and look at a bunch of the epics and legendary champions that are 2020, essentially. Old legendaries and epics that need a little bit of an uplift. People like Norog, people like Jotun, Ator, these epics that are in the game that are basically totally useless. I would rebuild them around Hydra mechanics, giving more block buff options, more perfect veil. There's still really only one viable epic block buffs champion in the game, pretty much, and that is Ugo. there's about 3 or so legendaries, but if you want a reliable, consistent block buffs, you kind of go to Ugo. It's just it's the only one that's available. There's always issues with other champions outside of legendaries and void legendaries. So I would create more block buffs, I would create more perfect veil options, and I would also, because we're trying to make money as well, we're a business here, I would release a new set of champions focused exclusively at the same time as I updated this around another HP burner that can bypass Poison Cloud, right? There's only 2 in the game, Mordecai and Tuamisia. There should be another one. More Veil and Block buffs champions. Maybe a Spirit-based epic max HP nuker, because we don't have a Spirit-based one. We have a Force one and a Magic one. It'd be nice if there was a Spirit one. Just add more depth to the roles that we normally bring to Hydra. That's what I would do in terms of rebalancing it. Make it for only more rotations, more diversity, add more heads, add more champions so that there's more flexibility for you to build various teams. Now let's talk about some ideas you could have for a head. I would say one head could be Head of Revival. So how would this work? Well, the A1 would attack all enemies. It would heal all of the heads by 30% of the damage dealt. So you would counter this by building a tankier team or bring heal reduction. We would then have an A2 here, which restores 15% of the head's HP, based on that's on a 4-turn cooldown. And then the A3 would remove the decapitation, so revive a decapitated head. And if the decapitated head was under heal reduction when it gets revived, it instead revives with 50% HP on a 5-turn cooldown. And then if you decapitate this head, you get a heal on all your allies by 30% of your max HP. This is just a rough sketch of an idea of a Hydra head. I would suggest maybe the decapitation could be fully heals all allies, maybe fully heals all allies and fully restores max HP, just so you get a full cleanse. I would also say maybe like there's some elements around maybe the heal isn't strong enough. But the idea is a head that heals their allies, heals their things, and then you have to counter it with heal reduction. Another head could be the Head of Destruction. We've got an A1 here that attacks one enemy, will reduce that target's attack by 10%, stacking up to 30%, and it will always target the enemy with the highest attack. We've got an A2, attacks all enemy twice, reduces the target's defense by 5% per hit, stacks up to 30% on a 3-turn cooldown. And then an A3 here that attacks all enemies 2 times, reduces the target's health by 5%, stacking up to 30% with a 5-turn cooldown. And when you decapitate it, you restore all of your attack and defense that you have lost. So this head here is clearly designed to be a kill it really quickly before he destroys your HP and you get everything back. And he's designed to basically weaken you in your base stats, which is kind of a cool concept. These heads here are just an example of 2 heads you could add. So it means you could run a Destruction Wrath with a Mischief and a Suffering as a combination, right? That would basically make it so that you've got 2 high damage heads with a bit of an annoyance and a tank head. So that's how you would counter it. You can basically make maybe a Blight head with the Head of Revival. So you can't place the heal reduction while the Poison Cloud is up, so the heads start healing back up. So you need to bring a proper counter for this. But if you only had to deal with 4 heads, you've got so many more options in terms of building a team. You can run lots of different combinations. You don't have to always bring, for example, there's no Poison Cloud head. Block buffs value is not as significant. Yes, there are other buffs, but they're not as problematic because they're not protected. So it gives you a little bit more room to maneuver. You don't necessarily need to bring a block buff, so you could bring a second damage dealer. And then I would fix some common issues that we have with Hydra, and this is some of the most basic stuff you can do. So I would fix Miracle Heal so that it restores maximum HP based on the total heal that you deliver and not the missing HP. The Head of Decay destroys on the total heal. Miracle Heal is actually destroying on just what you heal, which is why it never really works. If you change it so that it matches, then Miracle Heal as a 6-star or 5-star blessing has tremendous value in Hydra. It's much better, and I would definitely do that. Also, I would stop it from actually retaining the turn meter when a head is decapitated. You should get 2 full turns, but you never really do, because if they're right at the top of their full turn meter, they instantly take 1 turn away. So I would reset the turn meter. If you kill a head, the turn meter goes down to 0. And I would also put a visual indicator on the right, which basically gives you an exact number as to how much health that you need to deal, how much damage you need to deal to release your champion from consumption. Because you're only really ever going to have 1 consumed champion at any point in time until you get right to the end. But having a green bar that visually shrinks to nothing, and then you're like, how much more damage do I need to do, is very frustrating. So having more visual descriptions there is really good. I'm sure there are other issues that we haven't covered here, like Soul Reap in Hydra is not very good. That could be improved. And there are other factors involved with the rebalancing. But if you just fix those core issues, then you're enabling more functions to work in Hydra. So that is the rebalancing of the game mode of Hydra to begin with. The goal is to reduce the amount of times you have to reset, which reduces the time commitment, which means that it should be more engagement. You're also adding more diversity to increase the champion pools that are viable for Hydra and make it more engaging for people to build different teams. You're adding more diversity to the head so that it is more engaging in terms of new challenges all the time, so it's less stale. And you're also making it so that the actual game mode doesn't bug out half the time and really frustrate you with different weird bugs and coding things. You do those things first, then you've got a good basis to start a competitive aspect to Hydra. So let's talk about Clash and what Clash should be and what Clash needs to be. So what we need to do here to fix Clash, we have to improve the rewards to begin with. More people should get more access to rewards consistently and more available. It shouldn't just be tied to people who can contribute 650 million damage. That's just crazy. We should also be able to improve the motivation. The Clash event should make it seem more desirable and I'm more motivated to try Hydra because I get better rewards. And also it should improve competitiveness. It should make people want to push the boundaries of Hydra if they can to get more value out of it. And finally, we need to improve the systems that encourage clan cooperation, because right now there is really poor clan cooperation systems here. It doesn't really help a clan organize themselves to compete. So what I would do straight away is I would remove the concept of top damage and personal contribution completely out of a Clash leaderboard. In this sense, and the way that it's been delivered, I would remove it completely, and I would remove matchmaking for 5 teams completely as well. There would be no draft for a 5 team, there'd be no matchmaking, it would be a simple Clash event. That's what I would do first. Then I would implement clan reward milestones, a little bit like how we do CVC for clan milestones. There will be 16 milestones each. Each one of them would unlock a bonus reward every time you reach them. You will only claim these clan milestones at the end of Hydra Clash. So that means you don't have the situation where people can, put one key in one clan and go over to another key. It's not going to work. You only get the rewards for the clan when you're in the clan, when the event ends. And in order for you to get those rewards, you have to have used at least 2 of your 3 keys, and you will have to have dealt a certain number of total damage across all of your keys, essentially. If you only have 2 keys and you hit the damage threshold, great. If you need that 3rd key, then that's fine. But the idea is to make it so that you have to be part of the solution for the clan, that you have to commit to actually helping the clan. But at the same time, when you look at the numbers, we're not asking for millions of hours of investment from you. We're asking for it to be just what you would be expected to do to achieve top results. So this would still be a weekly event, but we wouldn't have to worry about the drafting phase here because, as long as you commit 2 of your 3 keys in that clan and you're in the clan at the end, then you are good to go. So the only key thing that you need to remember is you don't use your keys in another clan, and then you can use it here. But you have to be in the clan when the event ends to be able to claim those rewards. Otherwise, you lose those rewards. So let's have a look at how I would justify the rewards here for the clan milestones. So what I would do is I would establish 16 milestones. They would be grouped in groups of 4, 1 for each type of difficulty. Now, the way that I've scaled these points, this is a total clan damage contribution. And the way that this math should work out is so long as everyone commits a 1 key for the top of Nightmare, 1 key for the top of Brutal, and 1 key for the top of Hard. So the minimum requirement for the top chest of those 3 difficulties, if everyone in the clan contributes all 3 keys to all of those, then that will get you the milestone, which means there is plenty of scope for certain members in the clan to help lesser members in the clan still get rewards, but at least they are, contributing here. You'll instantly see that the actual total damage contribution here is much better than Hydra Clash, but you still need to contribute a little bit, because what we don't want to do is encourage a system where one person in the clan works really hard and unlocks it for everyone else, and then everyone can reap the benefits for that, because that's not really the point of getting people more engaged with Hydra. We don't want to give people free rewards for not contributing. So you need a personal requirement in order to encourage people to play the game mode. So let's just have a quick look here at what we've said. So for the first 4 rewards, you need 137 million contribution as a clan, up to 512 million as a clan. So all the keys from all clan members. There's no multipliers anymore. There's no difficulty scales. That is just total key contribution. There is 120 gems here, an epic book, an ancient shard, and a void shard. Very good basic rewards every week. Most clans, even lower tier clans, should be able to hit this 512 mark if they've got some people who are doing Hydra, right? They're pretty easy numbers to hit. If you think 512 million is about 5 to 6 million per key per clan member. As long as you can contribute at least 3 times 5 million on a difficulty, your clan should hit this number. I think those are pretty good rewards for entry level Hydra. And then what we move up to is 5 to 8. So the scaling is going to be very top heavy in the sense that you start needing bigger breakpoints as you get to the higher levels, but you get lots of early rewards. So the idea is meant to basically incentivize you to get started lower, right? So you can see that you only need double the amount of points really to get from 4 to 8, but to get to 12 to 16, you're going to need a billion more, rather than you're going to need a little bit more there. So we can see we go from 637 million here to 1 million here. In order to get these rewards, you get 200 gems, 5 Mortal Soul Stones, 10 Immortal Essence, 1 Immortal Soul Stone, and you need to personally contribute 50 million damage, which would be a top hard and a top brutal chest, right? That's about 20 and 30 million. So that would be what you would need to do. And if you do that, then you will get all of the rewards from the base one and all of the rewards from here. Then we move up to the third tier, which is now 400 energy, 3 4-star chickens, 1 5-star chicken, and a primal shard. And you need to contribute 90 million damage. You would need to get to 1.5 billion clan total damage here. Now, if we think of what that is, that's basically 1.5 billion. That would be divided by 90. That would be around about 16 million per key per clan member to hit that 1.53 billion. Then we actually give us the new accessories here. So when we get to 13, everyone will get 3 6-star epic, legendary, and mythical protection accessories. And then when you get to 14, 3 6-star epic, legendary, and mythical stones and accessories. The key thing here is it's guaranteed 6-star and it's guaranteed epic, legendary, and mythical. None of this 5-star rare rubbish that nobody really wants. Anyone who's dealing this much damage to Hydra does not want 5-star gear. So it should be 6-star from the get-go. It should be more appropriate to the player's level. If your clan is hitting these numbers, the majority of people in that clan are probably hit using 6-star gear as the only 6-star gear they're using. Maybe the odd quad roll 5-star, but when they're running Fire Knight, they're probably selling most of their 5-star gear. So to give them all this effort to give them a 5-star banner that's rare is just poor. It's poor in my view, so that's why we're saying here 6-star epic, legendary, or mythical, so there would be a roll chance for the epic, legendary, and mythical chances as you get right now. That's 1.6 billion, 1.9 billion, then at 2.2 billion it's 1 times Sacred Shard, and then at 2.6 billion it's 1 legendary book, and you will have needed to personally contribute 125 million damage across all 3 keys. Doing here with this system, everyone in the clan gets this reward if they contribute a minimum amount of damage to hit it and they contribute 2 to 3 keys. There is no we lost because someone else did a Cadaver comp or a Trunder comp or we got out-krakened. None of that exists. What we're doing is we're incentivizing greater rewards for a clan coordinated damage key, right? It's not about one person hitting the top chest of Ultra Nightmare. Yes, you work together to defeat the Hydra heads, but I feel like that's a mechanic that is mostly completed these days on high-end content, right? Especially if you're a lower tier clan, you probably are killing that normal boss very easily if you have a couple of people hard hitting it. What this is doing is it's giving you rewards for working together as a clan to contribute damage to hit that top. Now, if there is some people in your clan that is able to do the Cadaver comp in 1 key, well, cool. They're going to be able to unlock all these rewards for you very quickly, but you still need people in your clan to hit 125 million. So there's really not that much of an incentive for people to do the Cadaver comp in this setup, because it's a lot of time that they would spend for not a lot of gain, because essentially everyone still has to do 125 million. And if everyone does 125 million combined, when you've got 30 members contributing, then that will obviously lead to 3.7 billion here. So as long as everyone in the clan is doing 125 million, you will exceed this 2.6. But if you've got some people who can't do it, then they can still get these rewards down here and the clan can still work together because you can use more on your key. The goal is to reduce the amount of time you spend in Hydra but still give you good rewards. That's the goal here. Now, the competitive angle of Clash, you might be wondering, where has that gone? I would create a secondary competitive ladder that's alongside the Hydra Clash event. So the clan would nominate up to 5 competitors. We would call them Hydra challengers in the clan. The reason why I'm saying 5 is I know a big proportion of the player base do not want time and commitment to taking part. So instead of forcing 30 people to be competitive, the clan can find the 5 people that want to be competitive and put them in for the clan ladder. It would be a global ladder of every single clan. So the ladder would be made up of every single clan that is doing Hydra. The ladder would reset weekly, but there would be a monthly theme to the ladders. I'll talk about the theme in a second. So the way this works is if I'm a nominated champion, I will have access to the clan leaderboard. Now, I would opt into this by basically locking in my role as a clan leaderboard, and then the clan leader would have to approve that they're the ones that are going to be doing it. That's where the clan coordination comes in, right? The leaders and the deputies need to choose who they want to basically submit for the champions. Now, there is a risk that you have more than 5 people, so that might be something you need to adapt and feel, but I feel like this is a good balance between people who want to do it, and instead of forcing people to do it, the clan can actually manage the situation themselves. The nominated champions of the clan will then submit their best Nightmare key damage. 1 key on Nightmare, their best one possible. There will be theme multipliers that apply to the damage. We're going to talk about the theme in a second, so that's a key thing, and I think this will be very interesting. A lot of people will like the concept of the theme. All 5 members will be added together in terms of their damage, and they will contribute to the position of the clan on the leaderboard. So the total combined damage of the 5 challengers will equal the total damage of that clan, and then the clans are ranked based on their total damage. On reset, all members of the clan will receive a bonus reward depending on where the leaderboard position is for that clan. And then champions also gain access to a bonus chest of exclusive rewards that isn't tied to anything that other clan members couldn't get, because I don't really think it's a good idea to create a system where only 5 people can get something and the others can't. But it should be a case of they get rewarded for their time and effort. So there's an exclusive set of rewards for the challengers. But every week, depending on where that clan finishes, they will get rewards. And then at the end of that reset, the clan leaderboard is reset. So let's talk about the theme. What do I mean about themes? For a long period of time, especially when Live Arena came out, a lot of people were asking for more challenge-based content. So do this, but using epics only. Do this, but using this type only. A bit akin to what Deadwood Jedi does with his events. It creates compelling challenges for players, and it means that you can't just wail out and beat it with the Cadaver teams or the Trunder teams. So for example, we could have an example here where the month theme is the Telerians against the Galian Pact, which means that the Telerians, if you use a Telerian champion or more Telerian champions, you get twice the amount of points as a multiplier for every single Telerian champion you use. And coincidentally, if you use the Galian Pact, you lose 2 times as many points. So you're basically penalized for using the Galian and positively used for the Telerians. We could get 2 times bonus points if you use an epic, 5 times if you use a rare. You get penalty points if you use duplicates. We could have bans as well, maybe potentially the Undead Hordes is no longer selectable this rotation. What you basically create is a monthly theme that the challengers have to adapt to be able to fit the best team possible, that will evolve over the month and then get reset to a different challenge. So it does deal with the issue of, well, how do you get around the Acrisia? Well, if Acrisia is negatively affected by the fact that you've got 2 of them and also the Dwarven faction is penalized, then it doesn't matter how much damage Acrisia does, because the theme is going to make her not viable. You design content to make the champion less viable. That doesn't mean she won't be viable in another rotation, but it means that you have to build teams around. And this is where the challenger selection is more interesting, because it could be that the challenger you had last month had a really good roster for that theme, and then a new challenger comes forward and goes, look, I've got a great roster, I've got a really high awakening for these champions, I've got a +4, I could do a lot of work for the clan here, and then you basically move your challenges around, the challenger sits out for a rotation. That is kind of like where the clan coordination comes into it, where clans work together to figure out who the best challengers are, and those are the ones that want to step forward. But it doesn't force everyone in the clan to do it. It doesn't create a negative environment where the people who can't compete in Hydra are the ones that are being forced to compete in Hydra, and then because they can't do it, they're getting negative feelings from other members of the clan because they don't feel like they're pulling their weight. So what kind of rewards would we get as a total clan based on our clan ladder position? Well, if your 5 champions manage to do enough damage to finish in the top 50, then everyone in the clan will get a Primal Shard, a Void Shard, 5 Eternal Essence, and 2 random 6-star mythical accessories from those 2 sets. And that is for everyone, including the challengers. So if you finish top 100, you get 75 Primal Quartz, 1 Void Shard, 10 Immortal Essence, and 2 random 6-star Epic, Legendary, and Mythical. So not Mythical guaranteed, but Epic, Legendary, and Mythical. Then if you finish top 200, you get 50 Primal Quartz, 1 Void Shard, 5 Immortal Essence, and 1 times 6-star Epic, Legendary, and Mythical. And then if your clan finishes in the top 500, they get 25 Primal Quartz, 2 Ancient Shards, 2 Mortal Soul Stones, and 1 times random 6-star Epic, Legendary, Mythical accessories. And if they finish in the top 500, they get 25 Primal Quartz, 2 Ancient Shards, 2 times Mortal Soul Stones, and 1 random 6-star Epic and Legendary accessory, not a mythical one. Everyone who participates in the clan ladder should get a reward. everyone who participates in Hydra should get a reward. So if you don't finish in the top 500, you still get a chest, and it will be 20 Primal Quartz, 1 Ancient Shard, 1 Mortal Soul Stone, and 1 random 5-star epic legendary accessory. But the contribution of champions has to be complete. So you have to have 1 nightmare key from all 5 champions contributing into this. Now, it could be there are not enough clans for the top 500. I don't have the analytics, but that's how I would structure it to make sure it was fair, that everyone got a reward. And to be honest, now that I'm actually recording this video, I'm also thinking that instead of it being the top nightmare key, clan should be, the champion should contribute their highest key, the best damage on 1 key. It doesn't matter about difficulty. That way, everyone can participate, even lower clans. If they can only contribute 5 challengers who are doing a very good, easy, normal key, well, if they finish in the top 500, they can still walk away with these rewards, because I still think these rewards are fair for the time and effort those challengers put into it. So what do the challengers get for this? Why would you want to become a challenger? Well, a challenger will get a bonus chest which has a chance to get lots of different things, and this is for any participation. It doesn't matter what stage you finish in. This would be for every single tier. If you're a challenger and you compete in the challenger tier, you get access to this chest. The chest could have an exclusive avatar with a chance to drop, and there'll be 3 different avatars. It'll have 500 clan gold, it'll have 150 clan XP. There'll be a special trophy for you on your nameplate that says you were a challenger in Hydra, and then there's also an exclusive Mithrala skin that you could possibly get in here. So you can see the theme I'm going for. We're not looking at shards or books or champions. We're looking at cosmetic-based things that reward a challenger's participation, that allows them to show off that they competed in the top echelons of Hydra. You could add more things in here if you added more features to the game, like titles. You could add things like more skins and various different things. So it's still an incentive to be a challenger, but you're not rewarding a challenger unfairly against non-challengers, because you can only select 5. So what would this whole system change? Well, we would encourage participation by rewarding players for pushing difficulties, because if you are normal, then there's an incentive to push not just for the normal, the hard chest rewards, but for these Hydra Clash tiers. The more damage you put into it, the better it becomes. There's a competitive aspect, but it's only limited to those who want to compete, and you're not actually enabling cracking in. People with good gear and good skill sets and good abilities to find different ways to use champions are still going to get rewarded. And obviously there will be a reward for people who spend money, because if you have access to +4 champions, it's going to make a difference. But it's not so extreme that if you have an Akriza, you automatically win. If you have the Cadaver team, there's no chance of competing against them, right? The themes should lock out this concept that 1 champion team is all you need to win the Hydra Clash. Everyone is rewarded for their efforts, regardless of where they are in the game, whether they're end game, early game, mid game. Everyone gets a reward, whether you win, whether you lose. That way, the quality of the rewards is scaled on your efforts, not on your participation. We reduce the overall amount of time you spend in Hydra, because you don't have to spend multiple hours doing 1.5 hour keys trying to get as much damage because your clash needs it. You can just do your 1 keys. If you do your 1 keys, you'll max the milestones if everyone in the clan does it. And your challengers can then spend the time, if they want to, if they enjoy it, pushing that 1 key damage as much as they can, if that's what they want to do. It's up to them. You're opting into it. You're not being defaulted into it. And finally, I think a lot of these changes will encourage more diverse teams, which means that people who have lots of different rosters and different champions get to use more of it in Hydra, rather than going, well, I don't have XYZ, so I can't do Hydra. I see that statement a lot. I don't have the Ugos, I don't have the Duchess, I don't have a Shamael, so I instantly cannot do Hydra, and that is an awful feeling. So there we go, guys, a bit of a dev diary on what I would do if I was developing this Hydra Clash, how I would have made it, how I would fix it, and how I would try to deliver what I think a lot of the community want, which is a better diverse Hydra that is less RNG, that is more fun to play, that is more rewarding and less divisive, and doesn't create clan drama, that also saves us a lot of time. We wouldn't mind manualing half an hour to an hour every week if we knew that half an hour to an hour was going to contribute and work. What we don't want to do is spend 2 hours of our life to just constantly keep re-rolling because the RNG is bad. And I think that is the issue. Or spending 3 hours trying to push the damages so high as we can because we have to run the Cadaver team for us to win the Hydra Clash, which the clan expects that I do to win the Hydra Clash. So that is the end of this dev diary. I don't tend to do dev diaries too often because generally viewership for these types of things are a little bit lower. and also I'm basically speculating on ways to fix a game that nobody will ever implement. There's a very strong possibility that everything here that I've mentioned would never even get considered by Plarium, because it's such a big structural change. It would require a lot of dev work, and maybe they don't see much incentive in terms of monetizing it. But at the same time, this is what you need to do to make a good game, is actually think about what you want to achieve as a goal. And I would say right now, Hydra Clash has almost diminished every single goal you could ever have with the release of Hydra Clash. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think of these ideas. Do you see any problems in them? I'm sure there are some issues that I haven't considered, or some things that should be adjusted, or some things that may be a bit too rewarding or not rewarding enough. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Obviously, I will pass all my feedback on to Plarium. Maybe they'll listen to some aspects of it. Maybe we'll get some of these changes. I very much doubt it, but we can always dream. If you like these types of videos, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. If the viewership of these videos are really good, then of course I will do more content around these kind of musings about how we can improve Raid and what they should do, because it's a fun thought experiment. But there we go, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.